My name is Kwabna Chencha Heniboti. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk. Now, a debate on a motion by the minority asking the House to establish a special parliamentary committee to investigate whether President Mahama violated the Constitution when he accepted a Ford expedition vehicle gift from Burkinabe contractor Jibril Kanazoe will be the focus of a special sitting today. But as parliamentary correspondent Elton Bobe reports, the majority may use their numbers to block the setting up of that committee.
When the minority leader or say chairman steps up to move his motion, he will tell Parliament to back his proposal to set up a special committee to investigate whether President Mahama's acceptance of a Ford expedition vehicle from a Burkinabe contractor as a gift infringes any law of Ghana. He seeks to establish that by accepting the car gift, the president infringes on his own code of conduct. This will be their first attempt to establish wrongdoing against the president. The Burkinabe contractor Jibril Kanazoe confirmed to Joy News' Manasa Zuri that he gave the vehicle to President Mahama, who insists he never used it personally. Minority leader Jose Chairman Sabons tells Joy News' side is only after the truth.
When was the vehicle given? When was the decision taken to give it a presidential pool? What evidence is there that he's giving it a presidential pool? When did it happen? I mean, there are many lingering issues. It's not the face value of the issue that is put out there. If it's not done anything untoward, that's exactly what we would want to find out. So it should not be considered as personal against the president. I don't have anything personal against him.
But Majority Leader Alban Babin tells Joy News once such investigation is underway, it will be wrong for Parliament to also go into the same matter. The majority are, however, likely to vote against the motion.
Definitely, we know that they will respond that, they have something to hide. That's why we don't want it to be done. But when you look at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice and Parliament, which is better placed, which is better resourced to be able to investigate such a matter. Apart from that, we are aware that the Commission has already investigated this matter very far. So what purpose will it serve for Parliament to be establishing a special committee to investigate the same matter?
Would there be an attempt to arrest the motion if eventually the petitioner is allowed to move it?
We cannot. Once a motion is admitted by the Speaker, you cannot arrest it.
If the motion is rejected, the minority in Parliament will have to regroup and decide what their next line of action will be.
So that was a Newsdesk report, and we do know that the majority in Parliament has already described as mischievous in an attempt to throw darts at President Mahama. This very motion by the minority that's seeking to get the House to set up a special parliamentary bipartisan committee to investigate the president's actions regarding that very Ford vehicle gift saga. Let's try and get a bit of an interpretation as to really what this means, and let's try and understand what it means here for starters. And joining me now on phone is Justice Emo Short. He's a former commissioner for the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. He joins me live now with some more on this. Mr. Short, good morning. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk, sir. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your listeners as well.
Right. So, Justice Emo Short, now this has been the issue for many, for several people who are on the outside, particularly the governing National Democratic Congress and their members of Parliament. Well, they see this as an attempt by the minority to just throw mud at the president. Now, one would ask, what's the point in having a bipartisan committee set up? A bipartisan committee in Parliament, by the way, set up to investigate an action that is already being investigated by Shraj.
Well, Parliament is an independent body, and there is nothing wrong with Parliament taking a decision such as this, except that potentially it is possible, theoretically, that the two bodies may arrive at a different conclusion. But there's nothing wrong with Parliament if Parliament decides that that is what it wants to do. Now, if it is able to establish a bipartisan committee, in other words, a committee that is equally representative of the political parties in Parliament, well, it may well go ahead. But if it is not bipartisan, and if the matter comes, if there has to be a vote on the issue, we all know how MPs vote. The NDC would be on one side and the minority would be on the other side. And since the NDC has a majority in Parliament, if it is a matter that has to go to the floor, then the outcome is inevitable. So I don't know exactly the terms of reference of this bipartisan committee, and but what I'm saying is that there is nothing wrong with Parliament deciding to have an investigation, even while the matter is pending before Shraj.
Okay, you hinted of a pretty interesting hypothetical situation, a situation where both committees are investigating this very issue, and they both come with different findings, or findings that may contradict each other. What is to happen in such a situation? Assuming without admitting, for instance, that Shraj feels that the president did not do anything wrong and did not in any way violate any laws by deciding to accept this gift, and the bipartisan committee comes up with a different report that suggests otherwise, what is likely to happen?
Well, Parliament has its own laws and its own regulations, and Parliament will then decide on what remedy it should seek if it should make an adverse finding against the president. There are all kinds of sanctions which Parliament can impose, including impeachment. So it will be up to Parliament to decide the appropriate action to take based on the finding which Parliament makes. So that's the matter entirely for Parliament.
And what will become of that report or those findings by Shraj as well? Because we do know that Shraj is the properly mandated, constitutionally mandated body to carry out such an action. So what's going to become of their findings as well?
Well, as I said, the Shraj findings will sit side by side with Parliament's findings. If Shraj's findings are adverse to the president, of course, Shraj would have to recommend an appropriate remedy. On the other hand, if Shraj's findings are in favor of the president, then of course, nothing would happen, and we'll have to rely on whatever Parliament decides to do.
From where you sit, do you see this posturing by the minority in Parliament as an indication of how they perceive Shraj? Could it be that they do not trust Shraj to do such a good job, so they feel a bipartisan committee by Parliament to be the best way forward? Is that in any way an indictment on the ability of Shraj to properly see through this case?
Well, I would refrain from commenting on that matter. I have no idea. I'm not in the mind of the minority. I have no idea the purpose behind their motion, and I don't know whether it is as you suggest, that it is possibly because they don't feel that Shraj will be objective in its deliberations and its decision. I'm not able to comment on that issue, but because that is purely speculation, and if the minority itself has not come out publicly to state that they do not feel that Shraj would be objective in its investigation, I don't think anybody else can speculate on the motive behind the minority's action.
Maybe just before we wrap up, I just want to know, how do you see this playing out in Parliament today? Obviously, the majority has made its stance clear that they're going to ensure that this does not fly. The minority, however, believe that there's still a bit of a vacuum that they can exploit. But from where you sit, how do you see this playing out?
As I said, it depends on whether it is a truly bipartisan investigation. You know, that will be key to the outcome. And the transparency and credibility of the proceedings in Parliament. So it's difficult to determine or speculate as to the outcome of the parliamentary, proceedings. Unless we know that the committee, the bipartisan committee, and that the outcome has been arrived at in a very transparent and very credible manner.
Finally, should the minority in Parliament fail at this attempt, what are the other likely options they may pursue?
I can't think of any other options.
So that does it for them. Once they are through with this, that's it. There isn't much else they can do.
No, I don't think so, except they have to wait for the findings to trudge.
Okay. Justice Emil Short, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. And he is a former commissioner for the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. And he's been sharing with us his thoughts on that very issue that will be happening in Parliament any moment from now. We'll be bringing you a live feed of that very action, because we do know that the minority have insisted that they are poised and ready to ensure that this very bipartisan committee is set up and they actually do the work they are supposed to ensure that there's a clarity on this very issue. They are saying that their aim is to cleanse the president of all these attacks that are going on elsewhere. So we'll be bringing that to you in a bit once you're able to link up with our team that is currently in Parliament. But many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Let's now take you live to Parliament, from where Elton Brobe is standing by with the very latest as far as the minority's push to get a Parliament to set up a bipartisan committee to investigate the president over his decision to accept a Ford gift saga is just about commencing. Elton Brobe is joining us with some more. Elton, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us what the situation in Parliament is as we speak? Elton, if you can hear me, I'm asking what the state is, what the situation in Parliament is as we speak, whether or not members have begun thronging the House, and any idea as to when exactly the discussions are going to commence?
Remember, the Parliament was on recess until some members of Parliament, led by the minority leader and his side, wrote a petition to the Speaker. And if you look at the constitutional provision, Article 1123, it says that when more than 50 members of Parliament sign on to a petition, the Speaker will have to, within 7 days, call Parliament. So this has been done. Now, we've been told that the reasons why Parliament has been recalled is for a motion by the minority leader to be moved. And he's essentially asking Parliament to set up a special investigative committee to investigate the following. I can run you through what the minority leader will be seeking to move on the floor today. He will ask Parliament whether the President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, received a Ford expedition vehicle from a Burkinabe contractor. 2, whether the Ford expedition vehicle received by the President infringes any law of Ghana. And 3, whether the Ford expedition vehicle donated to the President infringes his own code of conduct. I'm sure that in a run-up to this sitting today, the minority side, they've made their point clear that there is more to be done in terms of the investigation into this particular Ford expedition gate vehicle to President Mahama. On the other side, as a majority, their position is that this matter is already before stretch, and for that reason, this call is a wasteful exercise, one that will bring cost to the nation. And for that reason, members should have been allowed to sit in their constituencies and engage in parliamentary business. Well, those arguments for and against will be well articulated on the floor when the Speaker walks in and allow business to start for the day. If you can see on the chamber itself, members are coming in their numbers. Very soon, the Speaker will walk in and then the business of the day will start. On the agenda itself, you will not find the reasons why the sitting is taking place today, but we have a communication from the Speaker of Parliament. Mr. George Lowe is a Vice Chairman of the Legal, Constitutional and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. He was at the Majority News Conference yesterday where they made their position clear on this particular matter. First, let me start from what is on the other paper today. There's no indication that somebody will be moving a motion, for which reason we are here today. Why is that so?
Well, thank you very much, Elton, and good morning to our cherished viewers. Yes, there will not be any official anything on the other paper because we have been summoned to an emergency sitting. Mr. Speaker would formally communicate to the House why he summoned the House. And it's at that point that when he has communicated to the House what the reason for which we have been summoned, if he so wishes, he will allow the petitioner or the person who filed the motion to move the motion on the minority side.
If you say if he so wishes, does it mean that we may get to a point where the motion will not be moved after all?
You know that procedurally, Mr. Speaker has to accept a motion before it can be moved. He may as well decide that this motion is not worth the paper on which it's written and therefore should not be moved. So it will not constitute the business of the day. Normally, for things to constitute the business of the day, the business committee should have met, okay, and present a business statement before the House, which is approved, and then put on the order paper. So you see that that meeting have not taken place.
It's because we're on recess, isn't it?
Yes, because been given or sent to the business committee. So this being an emergency recall, Mr. Speaker will now communicate to the House why he's summoned members out of time, and then from there he conducts the affairs of the House as he normally does.
The point is that this recall is necessitated by the minority leader's petition backed by his side, and the Speaker had no option looking at what is contained in Article 112(3) of the 1992 Constitution. But now let's look at the issues before Parliament. That is, if the minority leader is able to move his motion, he's asking that Parliament set up a special investigative committee to investigate the Ford Expedition vehicle that was given as gift to President John Mahama by a Burkinabe contractor. For the minority leader, there are still issues that can be addressed in this particular motion that he's seeking to move. On the other side, you think that this is a wasteful recall. Why do you say that?
Yes, we say that because we are all aware that this matter did not break today. In fact, it broke whilst Parliament was still in session. So if they were so minded, I thought that they could have raised the issue or filed that motion at the time that Parliament was on its normal process. Now, as we speak, we are aware that citizens of Ghana have gone before the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, a constitutional body mandated and giving the authority to investigate things like conflict of interest, which is the subject matter of this matter.
In Parliament, you have an oversight role over the executive, and you are also an independent arm of government. So it will not be far-fetched for Parliament to also go into this here matter, isn't it?
You see, when you put the totality of it, don't forget that, like we keep saying, there is a Supreme Court ruling that where issues of conflict of interest comes in, the proper fora is Shraj. You remember Dr. Omani Buama and Osamu Kujeto's in the yes, that ruling came up. And therefore, that was some of the reasons for which they even lost that matter in court, that they were not before a proper forum, that the proper forum should have been Shraj. Having said that, we have also in our standing orders that where a matter is before a court, and that if we discuss it, it will, or a judicial body, if we discuss it and it will prejudice the outcome of that, Parliament should not. So we are looking at the totality of it, and we thought that if we should have allowed Shraj to come full scale, when they finish and they are not satisfied, then they can now come in and bring new evidence that possibly was not put before Shraj. As we stand here, that we believe that one, we've been summoned here, members have traveled length and breadth of this country at great cost. We are going to pay TNT in, TNT out. The full length of parliamentary staff would have to be summoned. Even those on holidays who have something to do with sitting in the chamber would have to be recalled. Maybe they have to be paid overtime allowances and all that. And we believe that looking at our scarce resources as a nation, we should not be wasting our monies on these things, particularly when we believe that there's no substance. Elton, believe you me, this matter has been discussed, and I believe that we've had enough of it. Well, what intrigues me is that they are saying that this becomes a bedrock on which maybe impeachment proceedings could come up. Even though they didn't say anything about impeachment on their matter. But if it's 3 months to an election, if it's a president you are in a hurry to get out, you had November 7th. You decided that no, you didn't want November 7th. It should have been the earliest time when you get this president out, if you believe strongly that you can get him out. You had the opportunity, you didn't do it. 3 months to an election, you are now coming for impeachment process. That can take over a year. So really, I think that this is mischief. We believe that it is because their campaign is not going well, and they believe that maybe they'll have to find some other way of getting at the president. We believe that all they think they can do is to open the Pandora box where they can throw some dirt and mud at the president. Right. But I can assure them that none of it will stick.
Let's now focus a bit on the likely drama that is going to happen on the floor of Parliament today when eventually the Speaker is in and business starts. I can recall what happened when the Deputy Minority Leader wanted to move a motion for Parliament to investigate the sale of Merchant Bank to Fortis Ghana Limited. Eventually, when he was given the opportunity to move the motion, Dr. Benjamin Kombo arrested the motion, made argument why it should not be taken on the floor. Eventually, the Speaker had to allow Parliament to vote on that particular issue. The majority side, you had your way because you had the numbers on that particular day. The motion, the content of the motion was never heard on the floor of Parliament. Are we likely to see a repeat today?
Well, we may as well see a repeat today because, as I said, I believe that some of us are fired up to ensure that the process doesn't go on because we believe it's frivolous, we believe it's without merit, and we believe it's a total waste of members' time.
But there is that amount to you, hiding something and preventing it from being put in the public domain, if this should be your approach to the issue?
Well, motions are shut down all the time. If they have merit, they go ahead and they are ahead. If we are able to convince Mr. Speaker that he does, the motion should not be heard. It will not. If he so thinks, he will not be heard. He has a final say. He has a final ruling. But we need to convince him. This is a procedural matter. So if we are able to convince Mr. Speaker that, look, Mr. Speaker, this has no merit and therefore it shouldn't be heard, so be it. Procedurally, the process could be wrong. There are many things that can be done. Unfortunately, I am not going to be able to tell you exactly what the game plan will be now. But I can assure you that we are not going to allow them to play games with this matter. We are going to face them boot for boot.
Okay, so we are wrapping up, and then we'll later come back when eventually everything is on the floor. But away from this, I know that CR94 requires just a day to mature. So even though you think that the reason why you are in the House may not be pleasant, you also provide some good news for the Electoral Commission.
Well, if it's an added impetus for that, so be it.
All right. So we'll take a break here and then come back. As you can see on the floor of Parliament, members of Parliament are coming in. Very soon the Speaker will take the seat, and then we will know whether the motion will be successful or not. Okay. So, George Lowe, I have been speaking to the Vice Chair of the Legal and Constitutional Committee of Parliament, Mr. George Lowe. I'm going to leave him for him to go back to the chamber, and I'll also take my seat, and then we'll bring you the latest as and when we have it here from the Chamber of Parliament.
Elton, many thanks for that update, and that was Parliamentary Correspondent Elton Brobe, who joined us live from Parliament. And you heard him interact there with Mr. George Lowe. He's a member of the opposition of the governing National Democratic Congress and a member of Parliament for North Dai as well. You heard him reiterate the position of the party, that's the NDC. Yesterday, we do know that the majority in Parliament and the majority leader addressed the press conference where he touched on quite a number of issues. Why he thinks this particular action by the minority is just a mischievous act that is aimed at just getting the president to just trying to discredit the president in a number of ways, essentially. But we'll be bringing you more on that, like Elton said, in a bit when proceedings officially commence. You're still watching this desk here on the Joy Channel Multi TV. I think we have some time to squeeze in some sports. You know what? Georgia Jr. is standing by with the very latest. Stay on.